I'm John Miglosh for the International Society for Strategic Marketing and the Wisconsin DMA, which got lots of snow. It's almost May. That's what you get in the Wisconsin DMA. Why do I live here? Anyway, I want to give you some updated data on Europe and China and some other things to think about today. The IBA Europe, who has something to do with the specification framework for the GDPR, has updated some consent specifications. One of the things that you want to think about in consent is not, do you ever want to hear from me again, or is it okay to hear from me again? What you want to do is fine tune that a little bit. So, would you give me consent to email you? Would you give me consent to mail you a catalog? Would you give me consent to share your name? Those are three very, very different questions, right? Which could have different answers. They could have the same answer. Okay. So what they've done is they've taken steps to enable publishers to ask consumers whether they consent to the use of their data for 12 purposes, including personalized ads. So say, well, we're not going to email you and we're not going to mail you, but we're going to make your ads more tailored to what we think you want to see. Dangerous, difficult, almost impossible. But, you could at least get consent for it. Personalized content and measurement of ad performance. So those things are kind of like aggregate, anonymized. Yeah, that's right. Anonymized and probably relatively harmless. Okay, although, as I said yesterday, when Tom Cruise, I learned yesterday or on Friday, that in the Minority Report, that whole sequence is offering Tom Cruise, who's on the run, different products than he might have bought as a federal agent. He's Mr. Yakamoto or something like that. That's where the eyes were taken from, good Lord. And no one thought to check the death records of Mr. Well, that sounds like the normal world, right? Okay, so GDPR is getting a little more reasonable. And in that context, I wanted to say that Marketing Week had this idea that demographics are relegated to less popular, less used in favor of behavior. Well, here's the challenge, because I've been doing this for now 25 years or better. And the challenge is that when you focus on behavior is great. Behavior is much more powerful. If you walk in my store, you're more interested than if you walk by, right? And don't look. So behavior is helpful. The tricky part is we have very little behavior information. You bought once, you didn't spend much, and you haven't bought lately. Okay? Now, the other problem is that in an average file, 60% or better of your customers haven't bought more than once, haven't spent much, haven't bought lately. So with Musician's Friend, we probably had 15 million names, and they rarely mailed more than 500,000. That's pretty normal. And it's just pretty normal. If you've been in business a while, you could have millions of names, millions and millions of names. They could have 10 million names that only bought once. I don't remember the number, and I wouldn't share it with you anyway. But my guess is they probably had at least 7 or 8, maybe 9 million that only bought once, hadn't bought lately, and didn't spend that much. Okay, so how do you make sense of that? And if you score it properly, that's all you got. And the answer is, demographics come in handy. So what's funny is that they say they're moving away from demographic segmentation in favor of life stage and attitude and behavior, but those things are aggregated from geodemographics. Now, in the 80s, we thought the golden age of mail had arrived because everybody was getting into cataloging. But in those days, not everybody had a credit card, and even if they did, they didn't necessarily trust ordering over the phone, with maybe good reason. In today's world, pretty much anybody with any income has a credit card or debit card, and pretty much anybody's who's still ticking is comfortable ordering over the internet. So, unlike those days, if you can get geodemographics, in those days we had to use behavior. The demographic files really didn't work because half the people didn't even order remote. Now they do. So don't dismiss geodemographics. So they don't work for everybody and they're tough to make work. I admit all that. But, I dispute most of this stuff. And it was a podcast anyway, so there wasn't much content to it. Okay, this was an interesting one because this guy gave a talk in Hong Kong and he said, who in here is a CMO or, in charge of a brand? Everybody raised their hand. Who here does digital marketing? And everybody raised their hand. How many of you can link sales precisely to digital marketing? And not one hand. No one hand was raised, zero. And so he says we need a different approach. And the sad part is that his approach is AI technology. This is the power of AI. No, it isn't. It isn't. AI will not get you there, okay? Because machine learning only works with a labeled data set. And what you're trying to do is create a label set without a labeled data set. What you should be thinking of is using mail. Why? Because with mail, we know who we mail to. Now, I'm not saying this will work in China. I don't know the status of China's mail system. I don't know how the delivery works. But in the United States, I can tell you, you mail to the house and you ship to the house. And so we have a connection, a hard connection. It's not perfect because people type their address in differently than the official ship to or vice versa. Or we do address standardization and it messes up the way they put it in, and then it's hard to match it back. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I'm saying two things. One, we mail to the house, we ship to the house. We know who ordered and who didn't. And the other thing, so we get a hard, fast labeled data set. The other thing is, in most of digital, you don't know if you saw it or you didn't. Okay? Yeah, you drop a cookie on my computer, so you can claim me later when I buy, if you can get my address, or if I order through or if I'm in a gated community like Facebook or Amazon. All of those things can work in digital, and if you're doing those, you should know what's going on. But the great part about mail is yes, the cost is high, but the level of effect is high also. And so your ROI can be as good or better. But the best part is, everybody saw it. There's a level of engagement there that isn't the case with a banner ad or a lot of digital, right? Where it's just running and I don't even see it. So, mail is the key, and setting up direct marketing use of mail is the key, okay? So on that note, we'll go over here to mail, taking it to the streets. Now, what was interesting to me was, this is from socialmediaseo.net. This is from a social media marketing source, okay? And it's saying, yes, direct mail is still alive and well. Has response rates of as high as 5%. You know why that matters? Because when you take mail, when you're mailing 100,000 customers and you take 10,000 out and don't mail them, you can actually see an impact in their downstream purchases, even in retail. We use this technique, and I've got a couple of videos about why mail in my archives over on YouTube. Look up Miglosh Marketing on YouTube and you'll find it. How we use that with a retailer to do the testing with mail, and then leverage that with TV and digital. Refine the message with mail, and then pour gas on it. Okay? That was great. So, direct mail is alive and well. This stuff is nothing new. And design matters. What he doesn't say is that the list matters. The number one most important factor is list. And that's not in this article. So I'm helping you out with this. Anyway, I'm John Miglosh. Have a great day. Go over to Periscope and hit subscribe. Periscope.tv/John Miglosh. If you subscribe there, you'll get a notice when we go live every day. And we give you 5 minutes to go get a cup of coffee, and then we start. Okay? So if you subscribe, you can chime in and make comments and put hearts up on all that sort of thing. Have a great day. Hope you didn't get too much snow.